It is to make people feel like they belong, like they are included, they are heard, they are seen, they are understood. Like that was the point of the podcast. That is the point of this podcast. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Okay, wow. This episode, we're just gonna jump right into it. This is an episode that has been over 6 months in the making. And my heart rate is like so elevated right now because I want to talk about this in a way that feels really authentic. And it's also extremely vulnerable. And I feel like I'm ready to talk about this because I trust the Unrestricted fam. I trust you listeners. And so I want to bring you in on the topic of fear because I'm always letting my intuition guide what I want to bring to you on the podcast. And I'm always tapping into what are people feeling right now? What are people struggling with? What do they need to hear from me? And it's no secret that right now, there is so much fear in the world. There is so much uncertainty. And I get that when you are surrounded by this, it is really easy to feel like you're getting swallowed whole by the fear and by the uncertainty and by not knowing what's next. And I wanted to do an episode on fear the right way. But in order to get to where I am capable of speaking on it in the way that I will, I had to go through months of complete darkness is probably the best way to describe it. So I'm going to take you back to, I want to say January 2025, but it started even earlier than that, around last year. And I'm going to explain to you why I haven't done this episode yet, because I didn't know how to speak on it and how to communicate what was going on internally for me up until now in this stage of my life. So it's no secret to anyone who listens to this podcast, to anyone who knows me, that I value human rights, that I value the fact that every human should be treated equally, that I value women's rights, that I value the health of our planet, that I value approaching everything from a place of love and compassion and trying to make this planet, this world, a better place. That is where I come from, no matter what I do. Am I creating more goodness in the world? I don't want to create more pain. I don't want to create more suffering. That shouldn't surprise anyone who listens to this podcast. So as last year started unfolding and the US elections were coming up, I was feeling a lot of fear. And because I knew what it would mean. And I struggled to talk about this, especially at the beginning of 2025 when the elections happened, because first of all, I'm Canadian. So part of me was trying to convince myself that who are you to talk about this? The fear that's going on in the world. You're not, quote unquote, directly affected by it. So that was one part of it. And a second piece of it as well was that how do I say this? It's not that I didn't want to bring politics into this podcast, because the thing is that whether you are Democratic, whether you are Republican in Canada, it's whether you're liberal or conservative, you are a person that I love, that I will show love and show respect to. I will not judge you for what you believe in. I will not judge you for who you vote for, because I know this is something that I think is a power and also a detriment to myself, is that I can put myself in other people's shoes and I can see that the decisions that someone make always comes from a place of self-protection. I really like to believe that everyone or most people have good intentions and are doing what they think is best. And so I didn't want anyone to listen to this podcast and feel alienated, because the whole point of this podcast is to empower people. It is to make people feel like they belong, like they are included, they are heard, they are seen, they are understood. Like that was the point of the podcast. That is the point of this podcast. And so for me to, when everything was going on, especially in January, February, and things were really new and really loud, and I felt so torn. And I obviously never talked about this on the podcast because this was all internal. And as all of this was going on as well, I was going through a really dark time mental health wise. January 2025 was extremely difficult for me. And again, I have tears in my eyes talking about this because I didn't know how to talk about this on the podcast, because I'm here to show you how to empower yourself. I'm here to show you how to take care of yourself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I wasn't taking care of myself. I really was. But I think it's also important to show that the human experience is not always rainbows and butterflies and beautiful. There's some really hard lows. And when I was going through that, especially January and February, I wasn't in a place to talk about it. And really what was going on during that time is a lot of existential dread, right? Like January happened. There was the fires in California. Trump had just taken office. A lot of changes were happening. A lot of division was going on in the world. A lot of hate. A lot of war. And I am extremely empathetic to a fault. And I know that a lot of my listeners, a lot of the Unrestricted fam, a lot of my clients feel the same way. And I felt all of it on a very visceral level. And I remember talking to Luke about it because I just felt this constant sense of what's the point? I would wake up in the morning and already dread the day. And it was really hard for me because that's not who I am. That is not at all who I am. And you add on top of that, winters in Montreal, winters in Canada, but especially where it's really dark and cold and there's snow, there's not much to do, you can't go outside. They're extremely difficult here. And so there was this seasonal depression that was deeply affecting me. And I would talk to Luke about this stuff, and he's such a rock, and he would grab my shoulders and he would hug me, and he would, man, I just get emotional thinking about it. He would just say, "We're okay, babe. We're safe. We have a roof above our head, and we're okay. We're here. We're okay." And what I would say to him is, "I know, babe. I know that we're okay. We have a shit ton of privilege. Not everyone gets to have that. And it's not about me. How I'm feeling right now is not about me. It's about all the people who are not going to be okay. And I don't care that I'm safe and I'm okay, because what happens to other people happens to me, because we're all humans. We're all in this together, no matter how many people in power try to convince you that we're separate, that there's in groups and out groups. We're all humans. We're all sisters and brothers. We're all the same. We're all in this together. And that's the way that I see things. And so it made me really sad, because I believe in humanity. I believe in goodness. And I am surrounded by so many incredible people, you guys. Business owners, change makers, thought leaders who are just creating so much good in the world. And so I was walking this earth with a sense of hope and optimism about the future. And don't get me wrong, when I'm saying all of this, I'm not saying that's gone. But in January specifically, and February as well, was really tough, because I was crippled by fear. And I had a hard time operating. I had a hard time just getting through the day. And again, I didn't know how to show up on the podcast when all of this was going on. I didn't know, okay, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? Do I talk about the fear? Do I talk about the lack of fairness going on? What do I do? And so I decided, because at that point, it wasn't coming from a place of deceiving or holding things back. I didn't even know how to process what was going on internally. I was in the thick of it. And I truly believe that you should talk about your scars, not your wounds. And it was a wound back then. I was crippled by fear. So how could I come on this podcast and show up as a lighthouse, as an anchor for other people who were also in fear? I knew that the best thing that I can do is empower people, because when people are in fear, when there's this large scale energy of fear in the collective, for me to feed into that does a service to absolutely no one. And so I really thought about this, and I made the decision that I'm just going to continue empowering. I'm going to continue being a lighthouse, and I'm going to figure this out. And as I was going through those really tough months, and I would say that it was a dark night of the soul for at least 3 months, where I didn't know how to navigate the fear, because I would look at the future and I would think, there's always and will always be darkness and things to make you afraid and uncertainty, no matter what. Like, truly, you look back thousands of years ago, there's always been reasons to be afraid. And so how am I going to navigate the rest of my life as an extremely empathetic person who cares so much about the world and so much about humanity and other people? How am I going to navigate this? Because this is not sustainable. I was not functioning well, to a point that I talked about on the podcast how I got really deep into fiction books. I started in January 2025 because I needed an escape. I needed something to look forward to. And so I read so much because at least it gave me some sense of relief from these really strong emotions that I was feeling. And I remember telling Luke that I was feeling weird guilt about how much I was reading. I was like, babe, all I've done this week after work is read. I haven't had the energy to reach out to friends or to go out. And he would say, why do you feel guilt? There are so many worse things that you could be doing right now to cope. And I'm saying this because I needed that. And that was the loving thing for me. It didn't create negative emotions. It didn't create a negative impact on my life, like binge eating like I used to do, or binge doom scrolling, which only made things so much worse. It was also in January that I set up all of these blocks on my social media apps so that I could not doom scroll. And I completely blocked any kind of news that could come up on my Google app. And I really took measures to take care of my mental health, because I knew if I am not okay, I can't help others. And this is something that I really hope sticks with you. We're going to go other places here, but we're going to stop here for a second. That we often will sacrifice ourselves for others. We won't prioritize ourselves for others. We think that it's selfish to prioritize ourselves. But the thing is that you emotionally and energetically, mentally, physically cannot take care of others when you're not taking care of yourself. And so I knew I needed to do whatever I needed to do to take care of myself. And I had moments where my mind would go to really, really dark places. And again, it was so hard for me because I was like, this is not who I am. And I didn't want to talk about it on the podcast because at the time, in the state that I was in, which was crippled by fear, I was looking for podcasts that would lift me up and give me distraction from what was going on. I have some comedy podcasts that I listen to, and sometimes they would talk about what was going on in the world. And all it did was make me feel worse. It fed into the fear, fed into the collective fear. And so I knew if I'm not getting value from this in other podcasts, I don't want to do that for my own podcast. I want this to be a reprieve for people. I want people to be able to come here, listen to the podcast, and walk away feeling empowered. And I remember when I was going through all of this, I just kept reminding myself, and this is important because I can talk on these really heavy topics of personal growth and of the dark night of the soul and of fear because I've been through them, and they're cycles. They are cycles of transformation. They are cycles of growth. And oftentimes these cycles of transformations and personal growth, they start with a couple of weeks or months of really deep darkness. And because I had gone through those before, I knew as I was going through it, this is only going to be temporary. right? It can't last forever. And I kept reminding myself, there's going to be so much growth and so many lessons for you on the other side of this. And I don't know what those are yet. And that's okay. Hindsight is always 2020. And there's this quote by Steve Jobs that's, you can't connect the dots forward. You can only connect the dots backwards. So as I was going through all of this, I just kept reminding myself, there's going to be so much growth and there's going to be so many lessons for you on the other side. And now I am on the other side. And I would say that I've been on the other side of it for maybe 2 months now. And now I can speak on fear. And now I can speak on how do we navigate the fear that we feel right now. Because I know that whether it's personal fear around food, around your body image, around your future, your health, or it's more of a collective fear of everything that's going on in the world. I know that there is some type of fear that is affecting you. And I want to help you with this because now I know that I can in a way that I wasn't able to do that a couple of months ago when I was in that very same position. And so now I can come on the podcast and act as that lighthouse, act as that anchor for you from a place of empowerment, from a place of detachment, where I'm not going to feed into the fear and I'm not going to let you be swallowed whole by the fear either. Because the truth is, and the lessons that I learned through that deep darkness have really transformed the way that I live, the way that I show up, the way that I feel fear and move through it. Because the thing is that fear will always exist. I'm not saying that I'm fearless. There's no such thing. And I was really afraid to record this podcast. In fact, I had that little ego voice in my head that kept saying, it's not that important to talk about. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you delay it to next week and wanted to procrastinate. Like that ego in your mind, it is so sneaky because it wants to protect you at all costs. But my intuition, my higher self was like itching for this message to get out. And so I acknowledged, okay, I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling afraid because I don't know how people are going to respond to this. I don't know what it's like to be this level of vulnerable because, of course, you know, I have been extremely vulnerable on this podcast, but this is like I'm stripping down naked in front of you. Please don't picture that visual, please. So I felt a lot of fear and I acknowledged it and I said, and I will move anyways. So many of you think that fear is a red light or a wall that says this is the wrong path. And here we're talking more of a personal fear, whether it's you want to start a business or you want to invest in yourself or you want to leave your job or you want to leave a relationship. There is something in your life that you want to do right now that you're afraid of. And you are letting that fear stop you from taking the action because you think that the fear means that you shouldn't do it. But the thing is that fear, whenever you're doing something you've never done, whenever you're doing something that your higher self, your soul wants you to do, and you feel that when you've got that gut instinct, that pull towards something. Maybe you've been thinking about starting that business for years now, but fear has stopped you. And we always find reasons as to why that fear is valid, right? Like we can always find excuses. And when you let that fear stop you from taking action, you're just stopping your growth. You are not allowing yourself to fully live this human experience that you're meant to live on this planet. I was just watching the Alex Cooper documentary this week. If you don't know Alex Cooper, she is the #1 podcast Call Her Daddy host. And she is the #1 podcaster. And she's a female in a male-dominated field. And as I was watching her documentary, which is fucking phenomenal, by the way, it is so inspiring. As I was watching the documentary, I was just thinking, you know, this is amazing. And what people aren't seeing that I know was there, because as a business owner, as someone who is constantly trying something new and putting myself out there, what is not fully highlighted is the amount of fear that Alex Cooper must have felt and overcome at every stage of her growth. And she could have had a million reasons why she didn't take that next action. Valid reasons, right? She could have told herself, well, no, she was a nobody when she started her podcast. And now she's competing with Dax Shepard of the Armchair Expert podcast, Kristen Bell's husband. She's competing with Joe Rogan. She's competing with The Daily, right? These like massive, massive platforms. And she had every reason to believe that no one's ever done this before. There's no evidence that this is even possible to do. Who am I to do it? You can choose to believe that that is the truth. You can choose to believe the excuses of your mind. That is your choice. You have free will. You can choose to give power to all of the risks. When I started my business, there was so many risks. There was so much uncertainty. I could lose this money. I could invest all of it and go nowhere with it. It's so risky. I could take the easier job, the desk job, the math job with my degree. Like there were so many very legit risks. And no matter what you do, if right now you are feeling stuck in your relationship with food, and the thing that is stopping you from taking action is fear of what could happen based off of your past, you are the one who's choosing that. You are choosing the fear. You are choosing to stay where you are. You are choosing to give power to the potential risk that will always exist. If you think that the next step that you take in your life that's going to lead to your next evolution isn't going to have some risks, think again. You will wait a really long time to find a decision in your life that will change your life and that will come with no risks. And so when we're talking about personal fear, it is understanding that there will be risks, understanding that something could go wrong, right? Like recording this podcast, I could get a message on Instagram for someone who listens to this podcast and says, I completely disagree with you. That is a risk that I am willing to take. You have to be willing to take the risks. You have to be willing to do the thing that dives you into uncertainty, and recognizing that on the other side of that fear and that discomfort, that is where you will find the biggest growth. When I talked to so many women, I mean, the number one thing that's holding you stuck is not that you can't do it. It's not that you don't have the support. It's not that you don't have it in you. It's not that you don't have time. It's that you're afraid. And I get it. I really do. But we're all afraid. We all have fears. And if you're letting that fear, you think that that fear is going to go away before you take the action, oh my goodness, you will wait forever. The fear only goes away once you take the action. That's it. I remember when I invested, the biggest investment I made in my business was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think. And it was for a coaching container with the coach that I still have, James Wedmore. And it was the biggest investment I've made in my business. And I remember I was so terrified. I felt anxious. I felt nauseous. Even just handing over my credit card, my hand was like shaking. I remember handing over my Amex and thinking like, just do it. Force yourself to do it. Do it scared, because if you don't do it now, you're going to talk yourself out of it. So I did it. And the second that the transaction went through, the second that I was in, it was like, oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm in now. I'm in. The fear, it wasn't gone, but it was transmuted into excitement. It was transmuted into, let's fucking do this. You just showed to yourself that you believe in yourself. You believe in yourself enough to invest this amount of money in yourself. That was translated into pride. Look at you believing in yourself, loving yourself enough to invest in yourself in this way. So if you're thinking about doing something in your life, changing your life in some way, and you're saying, yeah, but I'm scared. My answer to that is, so what? Yeah, that's good. You're scared. Means you're doing something you've never done. Don't let that fear be the thing that stops you. You're scared, and so what? So that's the piece on the personal level. The next one is the collective fear. The fear that makes you feel powerless. The fear that you don't really have control over. And that is the fear that I had to learn to detach from, to transmute, to overcome this year during those dark months. Because the question I kept asking myself is, how can I live in this world where there is so much pain, so much suffering, so much injustice, and not feel all of these uncomfortable emotions of anger and anxiety and uncertainty and powerlessness. And what I really had to learn is the art of detachment. And this is something my coach is James, always talks about. He is someone who's incredibly spiritual. He's just an incredible person. He's very generous, very grounded. He works with a shaman, and he's taught me so much of this stuff. And he's constantly talking about the importance of detachment. So there's many definitions that you can give to the word detachment, but my definition is being detached means letting things happen around you without letting it affect what's going on inside of you. It is living from the inside out versus the outside in. And it is really hard. It's a life lesson that you continue to work on and you continue to learn, is how to let the things outside of you impact what's going on inside of you. And this is what Buddhism is all about, right? The inner peace, being able to have peace, serenity, nirvana, regardless of what's going on in your life. And I know that this is so much easier said than done. And I know that it is so easy to go into yeah, but Sabrina, what about if this is happening to my kids or in my relationships or my parents and my family and my job? And I get all of that. I really do. And I'm not going to say but, and to let those things impact your inner peace, it's not serving you. When I was going through my darkness and I was trying to learn this lesson of how do I navigate everything that's going on in the world as an empath, as someone who deeply cares, without being attached to it. Because I knew that it doesn't serve anyone for me to feed into the fear. That was the number one thing that I had to keep reminding myself of. Because when you feed into the fear, when you give your power and your energy and your attention and your words and the conversations that you have and the things you talk about with other people, when you give all of that to fear, what you are literally doing is you are putting your faith in the unwanted outcome that you're scared of. You are putting your energy behind the unwanted outcome. Imagine the entire world started talking about the unwanted outcome. What do you think would happen? That unwanted outcome would come into reality because the universal collective energy is behind it to bring it into life. And so whenever I hear people even make jokes about these unwanted future outcomes, I understand that it's all fun and games, but at the end of the day, you're still giving energy to the fear. You are still feeding into it. There are so many things in our lives collectively that we manifested because we gave our energy to it. Negative things that we gave our fear to. And so I know that I need to be the anchor. I need to be the lighthouse. I need to be the one who has faith in the positive outcome. I need to be the one who doesn't give my energy and my attention to things that I don't want to create on a personal level and on a collective level. And that's why I am so incredibly mindful, intentional about the words that I use, the topics that I talk about, the conversations that I engage in, the accounts that I give my attention to, the things that I listen to, because my attention, my power is the most important thing. And another thing about being swallowed whole by fear is that that's what people in power want, because fear is an incredibly effective sedative. When you're in fear, you feel powerless. When you're in fear, you feel like you have no control. When you're in fear, you're in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you can't take much action. You can't fight back. You are easily controlled. You are just trying to get through the day. And so when you're in survival mode, it's really hard to go into activism and change making and power reaching because you're just trying to get through the day. And so the biggest lesson that I had to learn was that it serves no one for me to be in fear. And there would always be that voice that was trying to make me feel guilty. Like, because I care so much about people, I was scared that, well, if I don't feel the fear, does that mean that I don't care about people? Does that mean that I'm just kind of tuning out? But you can be in your power and care about people. And in fact, you will be able to care for people and make a change so much more when you are in your power. And so it is not selfish to take back your power from fear. It is the most selfless thing that you can do so that you can help other people be in their power. I was having this conversation with one of my clients because she felt like, if my partner is going through something, I feel like I have to be in the shit with him. I need to be going through it with him. And I asked her, do you feel like you're very helpful when you're in the shit with him? When you're feeling all of his emotions? She's like, no, not at all. I can't do anything to help. I said, okay, there you go. Because when you are suffering with people, when you are bringing your energy down, well, you can't be in your power and you can't help other people be in their power either. And so that is something that I really knew to be the truth, that it doesn't help anyone for me to be swallowed up by fear. So that was the first thing that I knew. But then came along, well, how do I detach from it? How do I move through this really difficult and challenging time without being swallowed whole by fear? And it was a quite literally daily practice of noticing when I was swallowed whole, of noticing when I was consumed by the fear, acknowledging, okay, I feel afraid right now. I forgive myself for feeling the fear. I forgive myself for choosing the fear, and I choose differently. I choose love. I choose to think of the better alternative, the better future. Because if I'm not going to do it, how the heck is the world around me supposed to do it? If we want to create change in the world, it is the cliche for a reason, but it starts with me. And I have seen it time and time again when I've been in a friend group and there's been conversations that revolve around complaining or around fear or around giving faith to a unwanted outcome. And I've just chosen not to engage in it. And I've chosen to believe in the light. And I've had people take me aside a couple of weeks later and say, thank you so much, because I learn so much from our conversations. I always go home and it makes me reflect. And it wouldn't be possible for me to have that ripple effect on other people if I wasn't doing the work on myself. And so I know how important it is to choose again. I know how important it is to see that, okay, there is a lot of suffering. There is a lot of pain in the world. And I choose love instead of fear, because love is what's going to get us through it. We need more love in this world. We need more inclusivity. And that's the reason why I've chosen to really focus on how do I just create more love? How do I empower people? How do I help people see that they are so much more in power and in control of their lives than they have been told, that they have been made to believe? Because a society that believes that they are not powerful are so easy to control. They are so easy to sedate. And I don't think you want to be sedated. I don't think you want to be controlled. I don't think you want to give your power away to other people who don't have good intentions. I know that if you're listening to this podcast, you have the ability to change the world in whatever capacity that looks like for you. It might look like the direct family that you have, just your kids, the people that you raise. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe it's in your classroom. It doesn't need to be that you have a platform, that you have a podcast, that you start a business, but you have the ability to create a ripple effect in the world. But it starts with you. It starts with you deciding that you will not feed into the fear, that you will choose love, that you will choose to see the light, that you will believe that there is a plan. You will believe that things will unfold for humanity. That's the way that I believe. And it's not just like I'm just putting fairy dust and I'm pretending. No, I truly believe that, because I know that there are so many people in the world who are doing this work on themselves to take their power back. I see it. And I know that the more I can give you your power, I'm not even giving you your power, I'm just reminding you that you have more power than you think that you do, then the collective will become empowered. The collective will be an energy of love. And that's what we need. And I know that that's where we're going. And so that is how we navigate fear, is we don't feed into it. We don't feed into the collective energy, because that's what people want, is for you to be in fear, for you to be in survival mode. And maybe it's just the way I was raised, but I like to be a rebel. I don't like people to tell me what to do. You tell me what to do, I will do the opposite. You tell me to be afraid, I will choose love. That's just the way that I'm going to do things. And so I'm so grateful for those few months that were so hard and so dark, because I really did come out of it a different person. And now I have a whole new set of tools and mindsets and capabilities that I can bring with me. Am I saying I'm never going to get scared again? No, but I can navigate it differently, and I can let it not consume me, because I know that love is always an option, and love is always the best option, not just for my own mental health, but for the world as a collective. So thank you for allowing me to share this really vulnerable side of me. And I know that you will treat that with love and respect. And please send me a DM if any of this resonated with you. Let me know what came up for you, if this was helpful, because I want to hear from you. I know there's a lot of fear, and I want to help you navigate it. So thank you for listening. I love you so, so much. And I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, real quick before you go, if you're loving this podcast and you're thinking, Sabrina, I want more. I want to go deeper. I want a step-by-step process for healing my relationship with food. I've got a free workshop that literally walks you through it. It's a full breakdown of the exact method that I use to help my clients stop binging, heal emotional eating, and finally feel at peace with food in their bodies. It's totally free. So if you're ready to stop feeling obsessed and out of control with food, head to sabrinamagnan.com/training or find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.